It's July 3rd here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the deadly car accident in downtown Seoul. An investigation into an accident that left 9 people dead in Seoul is now in full swing to find the exact cause. The driver who says his car suddenly accelerated is known to be a veteran bus driver. U.S. President Joe Biden is facing pressure to drop out of the November election, with a House Democrat calling on him for the first time to withdraw, following a widely panned performance at last week's debate with Trump. More than 100 people have been killed in a stampede at a Hindu religious gathering in northern India on Tuesday. The accident occurred as attendees rushed to the exits. Police are investigating the deadly car accident that took 9 lives, with all possibilities open. The driver who claims the car suddenly accelerated is reportedly a bus driver with 40 years of experience. An Sung-jin reports.
A devastating scene in downtown Seoul on Monday night. A car drove into a group of pedestrians waiting at a crosswalk, killing 9 people and injuring 4 others near Seoul City Hall at around 9:27 p.m. The driver, a 68-year-old man with more than 40 years of experience as a city bus driver, is blaming sudden unintended acceleration. A witness at the scene is saying otherwise.
마지막에 밟은 거예요. 저기 앞에서. 다 치고 나서, 거의 치고 나서요. 그 앞에서. 급한 차량은 사고 났을 때 알잖아요. 전봇대라도 박아야 되잖아요. 그거 없어서 그냥 거기서 딱 멈췄어요.
An expert said that the driver did not try to avoid the pedestrians as you would in case of a sudden acceleration, adding that the deadly accident could have simply been caused by a mistake or carelessness. The vehicle was also seen driving in the wrong direction and collided with 2 vehicles before hitting people. Investigators are not fully ruling out the possibility of issues within the car considering the speed involved, reportedly 100 kilometers per hour.
We specifically checked whether or not he was drinking, and it is understood that he was not under the influence of alcohol.
The police took the driver in on charges of accidental homicide, which falls under violations of the Special Act on the Settlement of Traffic Accidents. In a later briefing, the police stated that the driver was negative in all quick drug tests and had been taken to hospital due to injuries he himself suffered in the accident. Analysis will be carried out by the National Forensic Service on the driver's vehicle, footage from nearby CCTV cameras, and the car's dash cam, as well as statements from witnesses. However, analysis from the National Forensic Service using its event data recorder system can take up to 2 months. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
President Yoon will be dealing with an opposition-led Nat'l Assembly for the remainder of his term. Now, with that in mind, he's called for cooperation with the government, urging to end conflict and confrontation. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
With just days to go until the opening ceremony for the 22nd National Assembly, President Yoon on Tuesday emphasized the need for the executive and legislative branches of the government to work together, saying that there was no future if the nation's politics repeated previous conflicts and confrontation.
국정의 목표, 정치의 목표는 하나입니다. 민생의 어려움을 해결하고 국민을 더 행복하게 만드는 것입니다. 이러한 목표만큼은 정부와 국회가 다르지 않다고 저는 믿습니다.
This part of his address to a cabinet meeting comes as Yoon faces an opposition-led assembly until the end of his term. Just the day before, Yoon's close aides, including his chief of staff, were called to appear before the House Steering Committee, whose opposition party members grilled them well into the night about several issues related to the presidential office. Now, a 3-day interpellation session has also kicked off. Yoon's spokesperson said that during the cabinet meeting, the president ordered his aides to take the time to explain in detail to lawmakers and citizens about the government's focuses: proactive global diplomacy, a free market economy led by the private sector, and welfare for the socially vulnerable.
The president stated that our government's proactive global diplomacy is not focused on domestic political calculations, but rather on expanding the horizons of diplomacy to enable our businesses and citizens to participate more extensively on the international stage.
He also emphasized that for the economy to thrive, businesses must grow, underscoring that proactive global diplomacy is directly tied to the well-being of the people. Yoon also mentioned that the country's low birth rate and aging population have reached a state of a national emergency that requires urgent attention. Amid fierce clashes between the ruling and opposition parties, Yoon also raised the need to narrow differences through rational dialogue and consensus, saying the government and parliament both share the goal of improving the people's livelihoods. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
So the National Assembly began its three-day interpellation of the Yoon administration's policies on Tuesday. But the first day ended with sparring between rival party lawmakers. Our political correspondent Shin-young has more.
Marking the 22nd National Assembly's first government question and answer session on Tuesday, political matters as well as diplomacy and security took center stage. Among the topics addressed was the government's response to North Korea's latest provocations, including Pyongyang's sending of waste-carrying balloons. In response, Defense Minister Shin Won-sik said the country's military is preparing for different provocations by the regime.
Our military is training hard and preparing specific plans to handle various forms of North Korean provocations. Please trust in our forces.
Regarding a question on the Yoon administration's North Korea policy, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo stated that the government is open to dialogue with the North. Meanwhile, the DP failed to hold a vote on a special investigation into the death of a Marine who died while undertaking rescue operations during floods last year. The party planned to introduce the bill following the Q&A session, but the session was adjourned due to clashes between rival party lawmakers and did not continue. It was halted after the DP lawmaker Kim Byung-ju called the PPP lawmakers out of their minds for using the term South Korea-US-Japan alliance in last month's party briefing. His comment led to strong protest from the PPP lawmakers. The DP is planning to table the special prop bill on Wednesday after another round of government questioning, this time focusing on the economy. Shin-young, Arirang News.
For the first time, a Democrat lawmaker has voiced his opposition to U.S. President Joe Biden's run for a second term, following what's being widely viewed as a poor performance by Biden during the televised debate against Donald Trump last week. Lee Seung-jae reports.
For the first time, a House Democrat has publicly called for U.S. President Joe Biden to step down as the party's candidate for the upcoming November presidential election. According to Democrat House Representative Lloyd Doggett of Texas on Tuesday, Biden should make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw, citing the president's poor performance during last week's televised debate with former President Donald Trump. However, Doggett stressed that his remarks do not in any way diminish his respect for Biden's achievements, adding that the incumbent president has always prioritized his country, unlike his opponent. While a number of Democrats have voiced concerns for Biden's bid for a second term behind closed doors, Doggett is the first to openly express his concerns and opposition. Responding to these concerns, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Tuesday that the top office respects the opinions and thoughts of concerned party members. Amid rumors that Biden could potentially be replaced, a survey was conducted by CNN on 1,274 people from June 28th to 30th, shortly after the presidential debate. The survey asked participants who would win in a hypothetical matchup if Biden was to drop out of the race. Most hypothetical Democrat presidential candidates had less support than Trump, including Vice President Kamala Harris and California Governor Gavin Newsom. However, when asked who would win in the November presidential election between former First Lady Michelle Obama and Trump, 50% of respondents chose the former First Lady, compared to Trump, who had 39% support. Meanwhile, in the same survey, 49% said they would vote for Trump, compared to 43% who showed support for Biden. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now in India, as thousands of people left a religious gathering in the country, a crowd crush led to the deaths of more than 100 people. Park Kwon-woo has the details.
A crowd crush at a Hindu religious gathering in India killed more than 100 and injured scores more, according to local police and administration officials on Tuesday local time. Most of the victims of the crush in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh are said to be women and children.
I came to attend the event with 8 other people, but no one survived. I do not know there was a sudden commotion. I did not even realize what happened.
Though the cause of the incident is yet unclear, local news reports citing authorities said heat and suffocation in a makeshift tent at the site could have been a factor. Local police also pointed to overcrowding as a possible factor, as there were around 15,000 people at the site, which was 3 times more than the host had originally permitted. Police Inspector General Shalab Mathur said a high-level inquiry has been launched to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident. Also on Tuesday, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his condolences for the victims.
I express my condolences to the families of those who lost their lives in the tragic incident. I wish a speedy recovery to all the injured. The administration, under the supervision of the state government, is carrying out rescue and relief operations. Senior officials of the central government are in continuous communication with the state government of Uttar Pradesh.
This was not the first such incident to happen in India, as crowd crushes at religious events in 2011 and 2013 led to over 100 deaths. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
The S&P 500 on Tuesday closed above the 5,500 level for the first time, as U.S. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell assessed that progress has been made in taming inflation. The S&P 500 closed at 5,509.01, up 33.92 or 0.62% from the previous trading day. During a forum hosted by the European Central Bank in Portugal, Powell said that the U.S. made significant progress in returning inflation to its target level. However, Powell did add that greater confidence is needed that inflation will continue to slow to the target 2% level before monetary policy is eased by the U.S. Fed. Powell's remarks raised expectations that the U.S. Central Bank would cut its interest rates in September, with the Wall Street responding positively to the prospects. Israel has ordered the mass evacuation of Palestinians from the city of Khan Younis, which hints that a new ground assault there is imminent. For more on the Israel-Hamas war, we're joined by Professor Robert Lawrence. Welcome.
Hello, good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Professor Lawrence, first off, why Khan Younis again? Why that city?
Okay, well, with no consensus on who's going to rule the Gaza Strip after this war, Israel's military objectives have switched to just limiting or destroying the military capacity and the military infrastructure of Hamas so that a repeat of October 7th doesn't happen. So clearing and holding territory, which is a standard counterinsurgency strategy, doesn't seem to be on the horizon for Israel. I don't think that they want to get bogged down into a long occupation. It's extremely costly, and it makes Israel vulnerable in case there's an expansion of this war. So instead, in kind of in a different way of doing counterinsurgency, Israel seems to be fine attacking personnel, destroying military tunnel infrastructure, withdrawing, and then waiting for Hamas or other axis of resistance fighters to reconstitute themselves, and then attacking again in like a re-clearing mission. So we've seen a pattern of this. It's been observable for the past couple of months. In Jabalia in May, and then in the Shujaila district of Gaza City last week, we saw re-clearing missions happen and fierce fighting. And now we're seeing this happen in Khan Younis. Now, why did this happen in Khan Younis in particular? About 2 days ago, Palestinian Islamic Jihad launched 20 rockets into Israel. Mm-hmm. So immediately after this, they decided to go ahead and do a re-clearing mission again.
So now, too surprised. Now, in the meantime, victims and relatives of victims of the October 7 attack by Hamas have sued countries like Iran, Syria, and North Korea for their alleged Hamas support. Let's talk about that.
Right. So the Anti-Defamation League is a pro-Israel advocacy group that was started in 1913. And they have filed a federal lawsuit against those three countries on behalf of 125 people, including U.S. citizens and their family members, who were injured or killed in the October 7th attack. So what this lawsuit is seeking to do is they're trying to use the state sponsor of terrorism exemption to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. So what this does, it rejects immunity from prosecution for states that are designated state sponsors of terrorism. And all three of those countries, plus Cuba, are now currently on this list. So more specifically, the suit alleges that Iran supplied training, financial support, and weapons. Syria provided training and financing, and North Korea supplied weapons and tunnel digging expertise. And the real crux of this is that they're saying that without this support, Hamas could not have carried out the October 7th attacks. Therefore, these countries are complicit in the attacks.
Well, these countries being sued, Iran, Syria, North Korea, will any of these countries respond to the allegations in a U.S. federal court? Some experts say it's highly unlikely. What do you think?
I would agree with them. I think it's very highly unlikely. There's precedent for this, actually. So, U.S. courts ordered the frozen assets of Iranian assets to be distributed to the victims of the 1983 Marine barracks bombing, and also the 1996 Khobar Towers bombing in Saudi Arabia. Tehran denies the legitimacy of these rulings and actually fought in the international court to get the assets returned. And actually last year, they kind of, in return, they filed a suit ordering the United States to pay $420 million for an operation that happened in 1980. Likewise, North Korea, the U.S. court ordered North Korea, seized North Korean assets to be distributed to the family of Otto Warmbier, the U.S. college student who passed away after his extended stay in North Korea years back. And North Korea didn't respond to that positively either. So I think it's very unlikely any of these countries are going to take this very seriously.
But still, Professor Lawrence, what happens if the lawsuit actually ends up being successful? I mean, what does that mean?
Okay, so if it's successful, and assuming these countries don't actually pay the compensation awarded by a judge, what they're seeking to do is unlock funds from the U.S. Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorism Fund. So this fund was started by Congress in 2015. It's helped out about 18,000 victims of state-sponsored terrorism. It's funded by the seized assets of states that are on this list. So it's not funded by taxpayers' money at all. So the fund has actually been declining in the past 4 years. The actual funds, the assets in the fund. But last month, a bicameral and bipartisan legislation was introduced into Congress, possibly, maybe, probably, thinking that a lawsuit like this was coming down the pipeline.
Well, what's also interesting is that the U.S. is yet to recognize military cooperation between Hamas and North Korea on top of Syria and Iran, whereas South Korea's intel agency has. Why is the U.S. taking a rather careful stance here?
This is a little tricky, to be honest. It's a little bit confusing why the administration is so hesitant to address this. We've seen the administration officials have actually admitted that there are open source evidence, there is open source evidence of North Korean weaponry being used by Hamas. And then in the same exchange with reporters, say that there's no evidence of military cooperation between the two. So there's a lot of mixed signals. Regarding the Biden administration's policy towards North Korea, it's maintained this kind of open invitation for talks with no preconditions since it came into power, and this has largely been ignored by North Korea, and that seems to be the limit of the political will or the initiative to actually engage North Korea. So it's highly likely. It's tough to know exactly what the administration's thinking, but I would argue that they're probably with multiple areas of the world where tensions are rising, the administration is probably satisfying with just maintaining deterrence through military exercises and continued multilateral initiatives in Asia Pacific without closing any doors or provoking any further global instability, especially during an election year. We have an election in the U.S. in a couple months. So
Definitely.
I think that's probably the most likely reason.
All right, Professor Lawrence, thank you so much for your insight this morning. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Good morning, I'm Kim Xiang, and now we turn over to the world now. We begin today in the US, where the New York judge has delayed Donald Trump's sentencing for his criminal conviction in a hush money case until September, as the former US president seeks to challenge his conviction after the Supreme Court ruled partial presidential immunity on Monday. The first former US president to be ever convicted of a felony, Trump's sentencing was initially scheduled for July 11th. However, on Tuesday, the former president's legal team asked for his conviction to be overturned following Monday's Supreme Court ruling that presidents have partial immunity for official acts during their presidency. However, legal experts have questioned the delay, saying actions related to the hush money payment should not be considered as official. Justice Juan Merchan said the court will issue a decision by September 6th, and if sentencing is necessary, it will take place on September 18th. The leaders of the UK's main political parties are campaigning in full swing ahead of the July 4th general election. Keir Starmer's Labour Party, which has a huge lead in the polls, is calling for a change of political leadership to end 14 years of Conservative rule with a promise to bring Britain back as a leading global player. Incumbent Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, leading the increasingly unpopular Conservatives, has emphasised policy improvements such as expanding the National Health Service coverage to private hospitals and clinics to shorten waiting lists. Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats went on the road to meet members of local communities, including surfers in Cornwall and a Zumba class in Berkshire, with pledges related to the economy and the environment. It's the UK's first general election in almost 5 years to elect all 650 members of the House of Commons. Now to Turkey, where Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya confirmed on Tuesday that police had detained 474 people involved in attacks targeting Syrian communities across the country overnight. In the central city of Kayseri, properties and vehicles owned by Syrians were vandalized, while some were set on fire, fueled by social media posts that a Syrian man had sexually abused a female child relative. Turkey closed its main border crossings into northwest Syria on Tuesday after troops came under attack from Syrians angered by the violence. The unrest, which began late on Sunday, spread across several provinces and a district in Istanbul, according to Turkey's MIT intelligence agency. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan blamed the anti-Syrian attacks and riots on racism stoked by his political opposition. Turkey severed ties with Syria after the 2011 Syrian civil war, where they supported rebels looking to oust the current Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad. A zoo in Chile introduced the baby white rhinoceros named Silverio to the public on Tuesday. Silverio is the third baby from the white rhino couple, Oliver and Hannah, who arrived at the Buin Zoo in Chile, Santiago, from South Africa in 2013. The 12-day-old baby rhino already weighs almost a ton and is the third white rhino ever born in South America. The zoo confirmed that Silverio is completely healthy as he took his first steps in the outside world and greeted visitors.
Good morning. It was pouring down yesterday in the capital area with the season's first rain advisory issued here in Seoul. Well, the showers have let up here, but rain clouds are dropping showers on Gyeongsangdo provinces and some of the central parts of the country. In Jeollado and west of Gyeongsangdo could see 10 to 40 millimeters of rain. The rest of the country could see 5 to 30 millimeters before rain subsides in the afternoon. Meanwhile, Daegu had the season's first tropical night overnight, and Jeju also had a warm night. Then afternoon highs will go up 1 to 10 degrees Celsius higher than yesterday afternoon. And Seoul and Chuncheon see a high of 27 degrees, but moisture in the air will make it feel quite uncomfortable. Skies will get brighter, but coastal regions will be quite windy today. Then monsoon rain returns tomorrow afternoon from central parts of the country, continuing into early Friday. Then there's a rainy weekend ahead of us. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
Welcome.
엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
한국에 오면 먹어야죠.
먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
We're here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, July 3rd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Today, we're joined by Kwon Ju-hyun. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, and Park Gi-hoon.
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, we're going to start with their news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. Jin, the eldest member of BTS, will reportedly serve as a torchbearer for the Paris 2024 Olympics, which will kick off later this month. According to the music industry on Tuesday, he's expected to leave for France soon, though details about the specific location and schedule of his relay have not been disclosed. The 31-year-old recently completed his mandatory military service on June 12th. Now, staying in Korea, the Korean government will increase compensation for high-risk fetal treatments, raising payments by 3.75 to 5 times the current rates. According to the health ministry, this aims to lower fetal mortality rates and improve post-birth survival rates by enhancing compensation for 5 critical medical procedures, including fetal blood transfusions. Now, these procedures performed on fetuses within the womb are often avoided by doctors due to their difficulty and danger. The initiative will be implemented later this month. Finally, to the latest in the car crash near Seoul City Hall station that killed 9 people. Police said on Tuesday that the driver will be investigated on allegations of accidental homicide and that they are considering seeking an arrest warrant for him. The car, driven by a bus driver in his late 60s, as identified by local media, struck several pedestrians waiting at a crowded intersection on Monday night after reportedly going in the wrong direction and colliding with 2 other cars. The driver told investigators that his car accelerated abruptly and unintentionally. Test results show that the driver wasn't under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The suspect's car will be sent to the National Forensics Agency for examination. Now, many people here in the country and in other parts of the world are still in shock by this unexpected and unbelievable incident. The victims had no time to escape because the incident happened so fast if we look at surveillance footage videos. So here in the studio, how do you guys feel about this entire situation, this tragic accident?
You know, it's been all over the news from yesterday, and it is truly a tragic and sad news to hear. And whether this accident was caused by abrupt or unintended acceleration, we'll have to wait and see on that front. But another controversial point that I'd like to point out is the qualifications of elderly drivers. Currently, the government requires drivers aged 75 and over to renew their license every 3 years, going cognitive tests and traffic safety education, whereas drivers over the age of 65 are only recommended to undergo cognitive tests and traffic safety training. So I can't really say that this driver lacked driving skills or cognitive skills because it's been reported that he's been a bus driver for over 40 years. So I think. But what I really want to highlight is that there needs to be stricter screening policies and, of course, safety measures implemented, especially for elderly drivers on a more regular basis without really discriminating against them, because there has been a lot of controversy saying that, I mean, elderly people, from their point of view, they're saying, hey, we're still able to drive, we're safe drivers compared to the young people. But I think right now, the surrender rate of driver's license is only 2% right now, and I think the government is trying to encourage more elderly people to surrender their driver's license by actually, giving them some money on the side. But I think we're going to see more of these cases grow as we are an aging population. But it's something that we really need to tackle on a serious matter.
Right. Regardless of whether this driver, the accident was influenced by his sense of driving skills and his age, I think that you mentioned a very good point. This kind of reminds us that we should think about, once again, the influences of older drivers and the driving age in general. Now, to you, Jiyoung, what do you think about this situation?
Well, first of all, condolences to the families of those who lost their lives in this tragic accident. Well, this accident actually highlights the critical importance of vehicle safety and the driver responsibility. It's quite important to investigate all claims thoroughly to prevent similar accidents in the future. And many experts say advanced safe car safety devices, car features and regular vehicle maintenance could help avoid these kind of accidents in the future. So drivers should also receive continuous training, and most of all, strengthening safety measures and infrastructure is crucial in order to protect the pedestrians and reduce the risk of such accidents.
Definitely, this accident has given us a lot to think about, and once again, our hearts go out to all those victims and the bereaved family members. And that was our news feed for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Now, if you're an adult and enjoy taking a sip after a long day at school or work, now this episode is for you. Take a look at the screen to find out more. In the past, it was bibimbap and bulgogi for Korean food and makgeolli for drinks. But with the soaring interest and popularity of Korean culture, what was once a local favorite is now getting global attention. It's soju, a type of distilled grain-based Korean alcohol. Right, so as briefly mentioned in the video, soju, Korean soju has recently seen a surge in popularity worldwide, especially among the younger generation who really like to take a sip after college or after a long day of work. So starting with how big has the overseas soju market has become, Jiyoung, I want to ask you, are there any stats and what do you think are behind this trend?
Well, soju has seen significant growth in popularity worldwide, particularly among the younger generation. South China Morning Post highlights that soju is now featured in top bars and restaurants around the world. Well, back in the days, in the past, soju was often referred to as quote-unquote Korean vodka. But recently, it has become well-known among many foreigners, and its actual consumption rate has greatly increased. According to a 2023 survey by Chile, the global average consumption rate of soju rose from 23% back in 2016 to 81%.
Wow, that's a big jump.
That's right, in 2023. Well, this trend is driven by the global rise in interest in Korean culture, including K-pop, K-dramas, and Korean food, which often features soju.
Right.
And its relatively low alcohol content and soft taste attract younger drinkers looking for new and trendy alcoholic beverages. And marketing efforts and collaborations with popular influencers have also contributed to soju's rising popularity globally.
Right, I think I can definitely agree how soju has become bigger worldwide thanks to the influence of K-culture, because as Jiyoung briefly mentioned, we always see in Korean dramas that typical scene when people have soju together.
That's right.
Or
after a hard day.
After a hard day. So yeah, the influence of K-culture has definitely helped soju become worldwide. Now I want to ask you, Kyun, which countries is soju most popular, and why do you think these countries are the major consumers of this Korean drink?
Well, many countries in Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Singapore, local MZers, are growing fond of Korean vodka or soju. And also even in the States, soju has become more familiar among young Americans, especially with the recent trend of traditional Korean restaurants. Recently in New York Times, they featured an article on a Korean restaurant called Kisa. It's in New York and it's receiving rave reviews, and it's a traditional home style restaurant where they sell obviously traditional Korean food. And of course, soju goes hand in hand with any kind of Korean food.
It has great pairing.
Exactly, especially for dinner as well. So, and also due to the increase in demand, overseas liquor companies have come up with their own type of soju in their respective countries. And I hear that there are over 170 different types of soju, as you can see on the screen.
Wow,
there's like the sweeter version, which is very popular among the younger females as well, including you, I guess, Eugene.
Oh, yeah, probably.
A lot of females prefer the sweeter version. And also, you know, despite soju being sold at a much higher price overseas, foreigners get their hands on soju for its trendy and cool image, and like just what Julian just mentioned before, it's also about marketing as well. They use a lot of influencers, and of course in Korea you see like top celebrities.
Always doing the advertising.
Yeah, they're always in that soju ad, and like it kind of influences you to actually drink that kind of soju when you have your favorite celebrity kind of drinking, you know, right in front of you in restaurants. So, yeah, I think it's a great marketing strategy as well.
Right, so we're talking about how soju is becoming more global worldwide, and to find out more, we also asked our viewers whether they've tried soju before, and this is what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Sean Mendes says, soju typically has a clean and smooth taste with a slight sweetness. It's often compared to vodka, but with a more subtle flavor profile. Some varieties can be quite strong, while others are milder and easier to drink. Leon says, I enjoy drinking fruit-flavored soju for the clean, slightly sweet taste and smooth finish. It's so refreshing, especially when served chilled. Oh, you know how to enjoy soju. And Rex Alex says, I like regular soju for its clean and smooth taste that makes it easy to drink. It's the Asian vodka, and I choose it over other Asian liquors that are also distilled from rice. So we can definitely see that a lot of global millennials and Gen Z are becoming fans and enjoying soju. So for more, we're going to now talk to a Gen Zer from a country where soju has become a sensation. We'll be right back after the break. Right, so today we're joined by Patricia Febriola, a graduate student from Indonesia studying comparative socio-cultural studies at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Welcome, Patricia, to the show.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, it's lovely to have you. So Patricia, our first question for you today is, how popular is soju among millennials and Gen Z in Indonesia? Because as Yoon mentioned earlier, Indonesia has become one of the major consumers of this Korean alcoholic drink.
Yeah, of course, like it's very popular because of the K-culture spread in Indonesia, and also like globally, it's very popular right now, which has caused like the increased number of Korean restaurants, and also like soju has also become one of the most favorite alcohol drink among Indonesian, of course, in Gen Z and also millennials. And also right now, nowadays, it's very easy to be accessed in the Korean restaurant, bars, and also e-commerce. But of course, it's not as easy to be accessed in Korea, where you can find it on the mart in front of your house. And also like the price itself, it's not as cheap as here, which if we convert it into won, it might be almost 10,000 won in Indonesia.
So why do people in your country love soju, and what do they particularly enjoy about it? And my last question is, have you tried it?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, because of like the K-culture spread has increased globally, and also like in my country as well, people in Indonesia look up to Korean culture very much. And also like the way we like to enjoy it is actually to mix it with a fermented yogurt drink, like the small version. Well, in here, actually, people usually enjoy it when you mix it with soju and mekju. But it's kind of different because in Indonesia, we like flavored foods and drinks. So usually the popularity of like flavored soju is more popular among Indonesian compared to like the original soju, but we love it so much. And personally for me, I'm not a really fan of alcohol drinks, but I've tried soju and I prefer it to drink with mekju actually. Yeah.
You know your soulmate, Patricia. So when do you usually drink? Oh yes, go on.
Oh, sorry. And also because like Indonesian, to be clear, like Indonesian is a country with various religions and we have like diversities as well in our culture. But the percentage of the Muslim in our population is quite high. So in Indonesia itself, we have this soju called halal soju. Well, it's actually not a real soju because if you want to have foods or drinks products in Indonesia, it's better to have like a halal logo on it. So people in Indonesia try to create and to imitate the soju packaging, but inside it's actually a carbonated drinks or like a virgin mojito kind of drinks.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Patricia, when do you usually drink soju? Is it when hanging out with friends, at family occasions, or at other times, or even at parties?
Oh yeah, exactly. We usually enjoy soju when we have more to like get drinks and also like, for example, the family gatherings or like the friends and special occasion, for example, like birthday or New Year's. Because in Indonesia itself, we value drinking culture as a value of togetherness. And also like to have a stronger bond with each other.
Very interesting. All right, Patricia, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that's really interesting that although soju can be quite expensive for overseas customers, as mentioned by Patricia before, these millennials and Gen Z customers, they're willing to pay even more to have that drink that they like. For example, soju. So, Yoon, I want to ask you, is this also a trend, a consumption trend that we're observing among younger generation here in Korea?
It definitely is, and I just want to point out that it's very similar to drinking wine in Korea. I mean, when you think of wine in France, Italy, where it's like produced a lot, or even in the States, it's not that expensive to get your hands on a bottle of wine. But here in Korea, it's considered a lot more expensive compared to those countries. So I think it's a very similar kind of concept. Soju being a little more expensive overseas compared to Korea, obviously. But I remember when we previously tapped on a topic where a lot of MZers were getting into the trend of drinking whiskey and highball as well.
Yeah.
And you know, whiskey is considered a little costly here in Korea as well, but it became very accessible in supermarkets and even convenience stores nowadays. So people weren't so against buying expensive whiskey. And another factor that played a big part was during the COVID-19 lockdowns, where we were kind of forced to stay at home. And for people who were called 홈술족, like people who like to stay home and drink by themselves or with a few friends at home, they had to choose what drinks they wanted to drink. And to be honest, like, this is a personal thing as well. I prefer having whiskey or wine instead of soju at home, because when you drink soju by yourself, you get really drunk.
You can't stop, right?
You can't stop.
I see.
Yeah.
But it's not only whiskey and also highball that we're seeing a rise in consumption among the younger generation here in the country. Juyeon, I heard that Korean traditional drinks called 전통주, they're also gaining quite a lot of popularity among young people here.
It is indeed. It's quite popular in Korean society these days. So many people would like to enjoy Korean traditional drinks in this society. And we can't, you know, that the Korean people, they the younger generations, excuse me, they prioritizes the enjoyment over cost when it comes to consuming their drinks. And analysis suggests that younger generations who value diverse experiences, they are actually turning their attention to traditional liquors made from domestic ingredients with excellent flavor and high quality, even if they are slightly more expensive than soju or beer. So sales of traditional liquors in convenience stores have been increasing, with their market share expected to be significant by 2030.
I see. And as we're talking about the many ways our generation is enjoying a sip, for our viewers who want to taste soju for the first time, I want to ask you, because you guys seem to know very well about soju, do you guys have any tips on the best ways to enjoy this drink?
Well, of course, we have somek in this society. We can't leave out somek when talking about...
What is somek?
Somek, mixed soju with beer.
Oh,
that's it, mixed soju with beer.
Best combination.
That's right. It's a popular combination in this society that balances the sweetness of beer with the kick of soju. Right. Together. Remember the days of fruit soju?
Yeah.
It seems like the fruit-flavored soju, which was popular in the past, is coming back into fashion. Fruit-flavored soju is soju that has been mixed with fruit flavors with strawberry, peach, grapefruit, or lemon. It's quite popular among younger drinkers these days for its variety of flavors and enjoyable taste. According to Korea Chungang Daily, the Haight Chilo has heavily promoted soju in Vietnam, resulting in a 39% increase in sales, largely driven by the popularity of fruit-flavored varieties. And some people enjoy drinking soju by adding cucumber or lemon to it. I'm not sure about that, but
me too.
But you know, who knows? Maybe soon we'll have some soju flavors like kimchi or bibimbap, because why not spice things up like Korean style?
Right, very creative ideas from Gia. Now, Ki-hoon, what about you? What kind of suggestions do you have?
Rule number one is to serve it chilled, because I realized that if you have it only slightly cold, you can taste more alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Another method is, drinking it on the rocks, just like whiskey. Because personally, I tend to have like less hangover when I mix it with ice cubes. But to be honest, soju goes well with any kind of food. You can mix it up with any kind of Korean food, but also Western food like pizza. So among my friends, we have the term piso. Pizza and soju, just like kind of like somek. So I enjoy that as well, having it over pizza as well. Yeah.
That's a very happy thing that I think our viewers will really like.
Or you can have it with kimchi.
Oh yeah, right. That's a good combination.
Kimbap.
Right. Now, last but not least, before we wrap up our discussion today, do you think that we'll see more Korean drinks apart from soju or traditional Korean drinks become more popular on the global stage?
Of course, it will be really popular. I do believe that Korean drinks are on track to gain more global popularity in the future. Well, soju is great, but there are many delicious traditional Korean drinks like makgeolli, which is wonderful on rainy days with panjan. And Korean drinks offer unique flavors and are deeply rooted in Korean culture. You can drink and also enjoy the Korean culture at the same time. As global interest in Korean culture rises soon, we might see soju bottles or makgeolli bottles joining champagne in international events, and makgeolli becoming the trendy drink to pair with fish and chips in London.
Right, that's something to look forward to.
Right.
Now, what about you, Ki-hoon?
After talking about all the wonders of soju and of course makgeolli, here in the one and only international broadcasting station,
Arirang.
I think everyone around the world would, jump on the bandwagon and try this beautiful drink. It's wonderful. I think it's all about like a communal kind of experience here in Korea. When you drink, it's not about just getting drunk. It's like gathering around the table.
And the people.
The conversations. And every time we have a show, we have to say "짠," which means cheers. We think, each has a glasses. So I think it's all about the complete experience, which I think everyone actually enjoys. Not just in Korea, but people all over the world actually enjoy this kind of communal, kind of cultural drinking atmosphere in Korea.
Right. So I hope our viewers got a chance to know about the Korean drink soju through our episode today. That's all the time we have for now. But Newsden is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Kwon Ji-hyuk.
Thank you for having me.
And Park Ki-hoon.
It's always a pleasure.
And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.